You do butts in the regular season, and you do necks in the off season. I like that. People are going to question you, and they're like, "This guy's weird.
Yeah.
He likes butts and necks. I don't know about this guy." Oh, yeah, well, we know about this guy, okay? We know about Ahmed Fareed, and yeah, he likes big butts, and he cannot lie, but it's not like what you think. It's a football reference, okay? And if anybody's listening to this podcast, you know that's an important part of the game. What's up, everybody? It's Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Ahmed Fareed is here, as always, Wednesday, May 8th. It is Burning Questions Pod Part 2. Oof. We had the AFC the other day. Today, it's on to the greatest necks and butts of the NFC. And we're going to talk about them as we go on here.
Can I just say, I thought about it. I floated it as a potential idea of maybe I will rank the best necks in the NFL for quarterbacks.
Are you regretting that now? Or?
I don't think I can do it. I thought about it for about 15 minutes, and I was like, how would I even do this? And is there a difference in necks? And you said yes.
Yes.
And I was like, we probably can do better. Which is often the case.
Okay.
You can usually do better than a random idea that comes to your brain 45 minutes into an hour and 45 podcast.
All right, well, you better come up with something.
Yeah,
the clock's ticking. I don't know what greatest hair out of the quarterback position, if you want to do that, because you have such great hair that you don't even have to comb or do anything. You just put fingers through it, and it's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something like that. I don't know. You've got to find your niche here in the offseason. It's butts in the season.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
Yep.
Now, what is it in the offseason?
Yeah.
So figure that out. You got like 4 or 5 days to figure it out.
Thank you for challenging me.
No
I do
problem.
feel like I needed that. Best pregame fashion, Pete's throwing in here.
Right. Oh, yeah, that could be that. You could be that. That works.
A throwback to Chris and Ahmed look at pictures. Remember when we did that?
Right. Maybe we should do something like that where you can become the expert and I'll go, okay, this outfit, that outfit. Yeah. Something along those lines. I don't know. We got to figure this out, though.
Remember we did know your quarterback's feet?
Well, maybe that's what we did do, too. Maybe you know your quarterback's hands and you got to look at hands and you do all of that this time around, right? Know your quarterback's grip. Maybe you should do that, and you could be like, "Ooh, I like his grip."
He goes, Joe Burrow's not 2 and 5.
It's very strong, but delicate.
All right, we've got a lot of thinking to do here.
Yes, we do.
Go back to the Super
love when
Brawl.
things get uncomfortable because I love when you try to move it on real quick.
If people didn't think it was going to get uncomfortable just with the open, now they're like, well, just wait 2.5 minutes. It's going to get real weird. It's not going to get weird because I actually had a whole lot of fun. And I say that as like I'm surprised. I usually have fun on this podcast. But on Monday, going through all the AFC teams.
I'm with you.
We kind of brainstormed. We came to one burningest question for each team.
Right.
I didn't
like
the homies.
research this thoroughly beforehand. So it's not like I've written these down. I'm kind of just doing it on the fly, have a few thoughts here and there that I already got preordained in my head or I did write down. But it was kind of good to kind of do it like that and kind of just go, wait, as we flesh this out and talk about it, what kind of pops into your head here is, things that need to be fixed or at least addressed in our pod, and that's what we'll do here.
So if you didn't listen to it on Monday, go back and do that first.
Right.
Because I want you to listen to the AFC before you get to the NFC. For some reason, I don't know why that would even be.
A before N.
A before N.
Right.
So, but what we did is we went through and we kind of look at the roster, go through every team. That's our promise to you, the homies. We will go through every NFC team here and figure out. It's not playoffs, not will this team make the playoffs, will this happen? Health stuff maybe, but probably not. It's kind of like roster questions.
Yeah.
And have they addressed it in free agency?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it's more about. There's going to be a few, I think, maybe in here where we ask about, like, maybe a coaching question and go, they changed this. What's that going to look like, right? I think there's a little of that, and that goes into play here with rosters and all of that as well. But, yeah, mostly roster stuff and, finagling their salary cap and all that type of stuff and how they're going to work their team out.
So this is a hard one to start with, and we'll start out west because we don't necessarily just have an East Coast bias on this podcast. We can start out west, and the 49ers are Super Bowl team last year. So we'll start with the NFC West. We'll start with the 49ers, which is a difficult one because they don't have a whole lot of needs. They're a pretty complete team. They didn't have to do a whole lot. You got what's going on with the Brandon Ayuk situation for sure. But let's start with not Bucky Cox. Have the 49ers improved at all? Ooh, that's his burning question. I mean, did they need to? But have they improved at all? I can't see any moves we've made where we're better than last year's team, and I don't see areas of internal growth except maybe Purdy, although he could easily regress too. Mostly, I just see us coming off of 2 hard years and being 2 years older.
Yeah, well, I hear that. I don't know if there's anything glaring that you look at to go, ooh, they got better. Here's the one area I would go just to answer that right off the bat for our question there, right? Because I think it's a fair assessment. There's not a splash signing, right? The 49ers have become so good. One of the things that I would say is like a semi-burning question without getting into the main thing here is that, hey, what happens with really good teams? The good players want to be paid more, and all of a sudden you start to lose depth with your football team, right? The 49ers are one team that I'd look at to go, yeah, that's something that's happening to them right now. And then as I talk about all the time, whether it's Shanahan, McVay, any other coach out there, right? The conversation of, wait, yeah, we want to win the Super Bowl this year, but we don't want to do it to such an extent that we're going to be ruined for the 3 years after that. We're trying to, like, be in the Super Bowl conversation next year and the year after that too, right? And that is the pendulum or the balance or the seesaw, whatever, that the good teams in football are always battling with. Like, how much is too much all in? And how much is just right to make us good and sustained good, right?
Because you want to take more cracks at it, right?
Exactly.
Like people might be thinking, well, just go all out. Just try to win it this year, but there's no guarantee you're going to be able to do that, stay healthy, so you want to keep that window open as long as possible.
Exactly. And you know, the Rams, I think, kind of didn't intend to do that when they did it, right? When they started to go like, hey, we're all in. I think it kind of just happened organically. It wasn't a preordained plan where they were like, you know, it was Les Snead and McVay, and we're like, hey, let's start to dump some of the depth of our team and just go high-priced, like second, you know, 2-3 year contract type of guys, right? I think it was just like, oh, and then they made a trade, and then they were like, oh, whoa, we need this guy, and we're good, and okay, we'll have to make this trade and do this, right? And it kind of just happened. It wasn't like a plan that was thought out. They kind of went with it, and they adjusted on the fly. And, of course, we know they stunk for a year because of that after they won the Super Bowl. But here, back to the point, and back to at not Bucky Cox, right? The defense end position, they got better. That's the first place I'm going to tell you. You kidding me? They traded in Chase Young for Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos. Like, no doubt I'd take those two guys over them right there. Right? So that would be the first one I would look at to go, no, that is a difference-making tandem. Even though it's not sexy, it's not 15 sacks. That is one area I think the team will be better at.
Yeah, and I would say Malik Collins. They traded for him, Texas.
Definitely.
He started 112 games in his career. So
he's good. It's just, is he better than Eric Armstead was last year, right? Yeah. That's what he's going to be compared to because they tried to renegotiate Armstead's contract. It didn't work out, right? But yeah, Malik Collins, certainly not shabby. And then they got Jordan Elliott from the Cleveland Browns to add a little depth there as well. You know, so I think those questions are real. I get that totally.
You've been at times.
Yeah, go ahead. Lead me down a road here.
The defensive secondary for the 49ers.
That's where I'm going.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. To me, if my buddy Shanahan had asked me one thing to go, what would you do to change my team or what we do or whatever,
right? Head coach.
Which he's never going to ask me, right? Because he'd be like, F you, whatever. I'm coaching this team and I'm smarter than you.
Yeah.
But I would go, you got to be able to play more man-to-man in some big situations. You know, that's been my complaint about them for quite some time, and I think, again, it kind of reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl. There was one team in the Kansas City Chiefs in the big moments that said, hey, we can blitz you and we can play man-to-man on these got-to-have-it moments. And then the 49ers were like, what zone should we call again? Because he's picking us apart in every zone we call, so what do we do? Right? And that, to me, is the burning question, is the corner spot. Right? Charvarius Ward, very good, right? But he's the only guy on their team that I really trust man-to-man. After that, you go, I'm not sure. Now, they drafted our man Renardo Green, who we talked about a little bit in the pre-draft.
He tried to play man-to-man a lot. I think he was the press man. I think he did it more than anyone in college
It was
last
up
year.
There, right. It was up there. And he fits also the Seattle scheme, so he can do both. So we'll see where that goes. We will. But I do think if there's a team that I would go, hey, you know, there's some secondary. Is there a corner guy out there that maybe, you know, veteran guy that, hey, let a little time go by. Xavier Howard is out there, right? I talked about this with Devin McCourty, and Stephon Gilmore's out there. Now, I'd rather have Xavier Howard because I think when healthy, he's still a lockdown guy. But that would be a guy where I'd go, if they can figure out the price, and I'm sure he's asking more than maybe some teams would want to give him at this point of his career, and he's had a few injuries as of late, but that would be a guy that I would be kicking around the tires for. Is that right? Kicking the tires around?
Kicking around the tires,
yeah.
Kicking the tires.
Like that,
you just added an around in there, but that's all right. You can kick them around.
Right.
So we got a question here from 4Niners701, too. Yo. This is my Chris Simms Unbuttoned question.
I like it.
I like that, 4Niners. This is the first year in the Shanahan era they drafted without Adam Peters. It's time to see if it's been Peters or John Lynch for the past gems.
All right, at 4Niners 701. First off, did he spell my name with one M and Chris Simms? Did he really do that?
Oh, he did.
I mean, can you believe that? You're gonna impersonate my talking and do all that, and you can't even spell my last name at 4Niners 701? How dare you?
Disappointing.
How dare you? Right. See, but it fits in Chris Simms' mold. Smart, but not totally smart, that we can always spell or speak right. So I'm with you. You're one of my homies. Okay, I like
culturally, you're a part of the podcast. You just need to work on the spelling.
Right. Know who you're listening to. All right, so here, this is much respect for John Lynch, right? Big part of the organization. Now, this is the thing where I tell people this sometimes, and I still think they're shocked about this, or they don't understand this, right? Kyle Shanahan's picking the players. Kyle Shanahan is the GM of the 49ers. He has absolute total power, right? So it's not the way to take away anything from, a John Lynch or just like a Brett Veach of Kansas City. Andy Reid gets final power call, right? There's a few of those in the NFL, right? So it ain't Peters or Lynch. It's Shanahan, then it's Lynch, and then it was Peters when he was there, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Of course, Shanahan's in the trust tree with Lynch, and they're talking about all these things and all the time. But, you've heard Lynch over the last few years. He's talked about draft room war stories or whatever. Hey, Kyle's a little impatient. He wants his guy. They make a move to get his guy because he's the boss, right? So he makes the call, right? Do you think John Lynch made the call on drafting Ricky Pearsall at 31 when nobody in the world thought he was worthy of that pick for the most part, right? No, that was a Shanahan.
And he can say that now. He's like, I didn't think it was worthy of that.
Yeah, right. Or Lynch could be like, see, it's Shanahan. He's got total power. If it didn't work out. But no, Lynch is, of course, supplying the information, knows what Shanahan wants, and then, of course, knows what he wants and what works too, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? I mean, he played for those Bucs teams and all those crazy dudes on defense. He knows what good D looks like. So that is an aspect that I don't think everybody realizes sometimes with the San Francisco, because Lynch is such a, he's a powerful guy, and he's a big name, and he's awesome, and he does a lot of the press conferences, maybe more than most GMs, and I think people think that he is getting final call because of that sometimes, and that's not.
Yeah, it's just about having the voices in the room, right? And I'm sure there are some times where those voices become more prominent and more influential on a player.
Right.
But Kyle's got the final say.
Kyle's got the final say. And I'm sure, Lynch is, narrows it down. And, hey, look, there's these guys. And then,
and if he's really passionate about a guy, maybe it convinces Kyle to change his mind.
Exactly right. And Kyle is not so stubborn or narcissistic or anything like that, which I would say a lot of the great coaches are not, to where they won't hear your side of the story. And if they see there's passion, and then you can start to show them some video evidence and some other things to go that, they're not like above changing their mind.
Yeah.
That's good coaches change their mind.
And that's how you end up with Trey Lance. And so that's exactly what happens.
You're funny.
All right, so moving on now.
That's a good way to end
NFC West. We got the Rams here.
Yeah.
A very good end of the season, man. That was a fun team last year. I'm glad they lost to my Detroit Lions, but that was a fun team.
Yep.
Let's start with this one. Who steps up post Aaron? Oh, wait, we got the burningest question for the 49ers.
The DB thing. We said it.
Sorry,
I thought I did say that.
I ended that so well, and I went back. Okay.
Damn.
Rams, here we go. Let's start with this. Who steps up post Aaron Donald? We got Rambassador 93, great name. With Rams improving on O-line and secondary throughout last year and this offseason, and the D-line through the draft, what do you think is the biggest concern? D-line still green, in my opinion.
Yep.
What we need is a blue-chip pass rusher, while Verse and Byron Young climb to the next level.
Yeah, that's right. But, I mean, I think you're on to something there. I think when you look at their team as a whole, right, I think the first thing I would say is, like, offense, let's not worry about anything. The offense is great. Some of the additions they made on the offensive line, their offensive line was better last year. We know that. I mean, they're real deal. So that's where I look at it. They're not only offensively, the running back, the quarterback, the receivers, so there's nothing to question, I think, on that side of the ball. The defensive side is where it all starts. And, he's right about production or people to replace Aaron Donald. They still are young and raw there, but there's a lot of potential and talent in that group there that I like. You know I like Byron Young. I liked him coming out in the draft in Tennessee. So I think there's a real chance for him to be a special pass rusher in football. I do. And then Jared Verse, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt he's going to be a good football player. It's just how great of a pass rusher will he be? But still going to be damn good. Kobe Turner, does he take that next step or continue where he left off at the end of the year? And then I think the big reason they drafted that Braden Fisk is because of the Aaron Donald element, right? It's going to be, hey, get back there, be athletic, use that great explosion and your ability to bend and get skinny and do all that stuff to create chaos in the background or in the backfield. That's what they'll do. Here, my big burning question with them, I'm going to get right to it right now, is corner, just like the 49ers. It is. They'd be another team I'd go. Xavier Howard should be on their list if the price is right.
They were 20th in passing yards allowed per game last year. This is pretty much a complete overhaul, right? You bring in Tre'Davious White on a one-year deal.
Right.
You bring in Darius Williams.
Bring him back.
Right. Yeah, his last 2 years in Jacksonville. Previous 4 were in L.A. with the Rams. And then you bring in the safety Cameron Curl from Washington, 2 years, $13 million.
Yep. They're
it's an overhaul.
They're trying. It is. It's an overhaul.
They need more.
They need more. And you know, hey, just like we saw with the Lions game in the playoffs and all that, you felt like, man, their defense was barely hanging on, right? I mean, it kind of always felt like that. And when they got stops a few times in the fourth quarter, you were like, oh, my gosh, they finally stopped them. Like, oh, I didn't even think they were ever going to be able to stop them, right? You know, there was that feeling. It was hanging on by just the coaching, and then they were hoping like, hey, I hope Stafford and the offense can just keep it going and keep the pressure on them, right? That's kind of how they played towards the end of the year. Right? You're not going to get away with that forever here. They tried to fill or fix the defense issues with, some good quality, value deals in the secondary, if you want to say it.
Yeah.
Right? And they're kind of good at finding those kind of guys. There's no doubt. But, like, I would be worried about Tre'Davious White. Second major leg injury in, 3 years, Pete, or is it 4? It might be. But either way, it's been Achilles and ACL. That would scare me. And how good he can actually be. And again, I go into my whole thing there too, is you need to be able to play man-to-man against the really good offenses in football. It's essential. And they'd be one team that I'd go, hey, guys like Xavier Howard, Stephon Gilmore, whoever might be out there, they might want to kick the tires on those guys a little bit and do some research there.
How do you think the defense will change with Raheem Morris going to be the head coach now of the Falcons, and you got Chris Shula there now?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different. Shula, right, by all due accounts, he's been raised in that scheme to a degree, right? I think he had a year of crossover with Brandon Staley, right, which would be Fangio-ish, Brandon Staley and all that before Staley went to the Chargers. So I think there's a little crossover there. But, again, even with Staley's defense, I wouldn't say it's dramatically different from Raheem Morris, where, again, he's been with Raheem for the last 3 to 4 years. I think it's going to look very similar to that. Really, creative, does a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, right? And then awesome zone team. That's what they've been, is an awesome zone team. And that's okay. You can do that, but again, my concerns, and I think that's one area that they could get better at.
Concerns with the DBs, even though they've tried to overhaul that group. Tre'Davious White, tore his ACL in 2021, tore his Achilles last year. So it's like to make sure we get all the different injuries. That's significant injuries. To
one other thing, at least early in the year, is their backup quarterback situation.
Okay.
Right? That's just like one thing that jumps to you when you look at because Garoppolo's suspended. Right?
Oh, that's right.
And then you're going with Stetson Bennett, who
is he there right now?
He's there now, finally, after a year of, life rehab or whatever that he's going through.
They have Dresser Wynn, too.
Right. So
I don't know who that
would scare me a little.
Oh, he went to Tennessee Martin. That's right.
Oh, yeah, damn, you knew that. You watched the film of that guy.
Yeah, that's right.
So, that's an outside worry, but good team.
Not as burning. It's just kind of like a simmering question.
It is. I don't look at it. It's like the 49ers. It's not burning, but it's like, it's kind of burning if you think you're in the Super Bowl against Mahomes or Burrow or somebody like that, and then you go, damn, we can't play zone because they're just going to pick it apart. And see, that's what happened in the Super Bowl. After a few drives and they started to, get late into the first half, they started to go, oh, wait, okay, they're playing us like this when we do that. They're doing that when we do this. And then it became in the second half, they hit a point where it's like, well, the 49ers can't ever stop them. They found the part of their playbook to kind of combat all that's going. And, that's where, the 49ers, the Rams, that's when I think they'll need that extra corner.
Staying in the NFC West, you got the Seattle Seahawks, life after Pete Carroll, and we'll start there. No Seattle scheme in Seattle anymore? What will it look like without Pete Carroll?
Well, first off, I saw this question when we were getting ready for the pod, and I mean, Hawk Strollinger is the man.
Here we go.
But he said, Chris, I've disagreed with you more as of late. Well,
no.
When you throw out a statement like that, tell me what the hell you're disagreeing with me, okay? Because, them's is fighting words, Hawk Strollinger. I want to know what you're talking about.
We like disagreement. But we just want to know what you're disagreeing about.
Right. We like to unpack those type of things.
Maybe we're going to learn here.
We will. He'll get back to us, too. I know he will. All right, so
he goes, but you're a key teacher in my ongoing NFL learning quest.
Thank
he
you
knows
very
that
much.
He needs to butter you back up.
Thank you.
And I value your unorthodoxy. See, here we go.
Okay.
Hawk Strollinger's coming back.
Okay, good.
What will the Hawks inside linebacker room be tasked with, and what level of performance can we expect? So same idea.
Yeah.
Like how different is Seattle and the defensive scheme that they've run in the past year is going to look?
Yeah, it's going to look a whole lot different, right? Now, they haven't run the exact Seattle scheme the last 2 years, right? It's not really there. That's not what they had with this past defensive staff and all of that. They tried to move on, right? But you moved on to, what did I say last year? My favorite defense in football when I watch on film, right, was the Ravens and Mike McDonald and what they do, right? I mean, he is a guy that I look at to go on that side of the ball, right? He's like the Shanahan or McDaniel or the Andy Reid of defense. It is incredible game plans. It's things that are outside the box. It's defenses where you go, I don't know what coverage this is. It's a good one, and they got people right where they need them to be, and let alone they can play man. The defense, I think, is just going to be way more multiple. They're going to have a lot more calls and blitzes and zone blitzes, and I also think they're going to get into a little bit more and more of an aggressive man-to-man situation type of football team. I think that's what you're going to see from them here, and that's what will be different. And I think they even told you that with their draft picks, right? They took my guy DJ James and the kid from Auburn, the other kid from Auburn, Nehemiah Pritchett, to where, again, I think that's like they're going, wait, we're going to play more man-to-man than we've had here in Seattle the last few years. We need those type of guys. So I think that's the big thing is, when you watch them this year, you're going to be like, you watch the defensive line of the linebackers, you're going to be like, whoa, this defensive alignment's a little different than what I've seen in past. And, this guy's standing here, this guy's standing there. Wow, they're making a lot of calls and checks when this team motions and does this. And so this is going to be a whole nother level of defensive football by the Seattle Seahawks.
They lost Bobby Wagner, linebacker Jordan Brooks. They re-signed Leonard Williams, 3-year, $64 million deal, drafted Byron Murphy on defense there. So that's some of the defensive movement. I was surprised in looking at the numbers from last year how bad they really were. I mean, this is not great. 30th in yards, 31st in rushing defense, 21st in passing, 25th in points allowed per game on defense. Like they've been categorically one of the worst defenses in football.
They've been bad, like back there the last few years.
Hence Mike McDonald.
Right. I mean, it's you're a defensive head coach, and we had a lot of years where we were like, whoa, Seattle's towards the bottom of football and defense, right? We did, and they found years where they correct it and it gets better at the end of the year. But all in all, I think this is going to be a much needed culture boost, scheme boost, and staying within the great traditions of defensive head coach and defensive mind is just a new way of doing it. And it's still going to be that same old Seattle Seahawks attitude.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Ravens have. We talked about that before. It's kind of like their brother and sister or cousins, whatever you want to say, of the NFC, AFC version, right? I mean, that's what they are. It's like Seattle and Baltimore for the last 15 years. You're just like, there's ass kickers, and they want to get in a fight. That's all they care about, right?
Yeah.
They kind of have that attitude. I think here,
your burningest question.
I know we hit on this in the draft. I still think it's a burning question here. Is the interior offensive line. I think that's still the big thing here with them. right? They got these weapons at receiver, certainly. They got a running back that is special, I think, and they sucked in the run game last year. They sucked throughout. And I think it's just O-line in general is just taking the next step, getting better, whatever you want to say. Charles Cross hasn't lived up to top 10 pick yet at left tackle, right? We talked about Abraham Lucas. He was hurt a lot last year. He was kind of a surprise third-round pick who's been really awesome for them, but he's been hurt and injured. And then they've been trying to figure out guard center, the two guards in the center position here for a while. So I think that's the burning question is just like, how good can they be? Can they take a little pressure off of Geno Smith this year and run the ball and help him out? Because that's the one thing going back to my quarterback rankings and looking this a little bit. Yeah, when I looked at Geno Smith stuff, I realized man, it wasn't his best year. He could have done some things better, but he didn't have a tremendous amount of help or wasn't able to feel real comfortable back there, in a lot of weeks during the season.
Do you think Geno versus Sam Howell is a competition?
I don't. No, I don't. Now, it's a hey, we got a really good backup, and if Geno slips up or doesn't play well or gets hurt, you're like, damn, we got Sam Howell, and he might be able to restart us or jumpstart us or give us some, new juice, right? I think that's what it is. But again, as you've heard me say before too, Geno Smith is so much more physically gifted than people realize as an athlete and then as a thrower, that it'd be one of those where if we went out on the practice field and we were sitting there in Seattle practice field by the lake, you'd see 5 throws from Geno and you'd go, whoa, I just didn't realize the ball fires out of his hand like this, right? And it's a perfect spiral every throw, right? He's a little better that way, and I think, he'll still be the man up there.
And then you would say, Ahmed, you've been doing the podcast with me for 5 years. I've said this the last 3 years now. Get it through your thick skull. All right, the last team in the NFC West is the Arizona Cardinals. And for me, I think it's I think for my burning question, what are the rookies going to look like? You got 4 rookies slated to start. A couple on offense with Marvin Harrison, of course, Isaiah Adams on the offensive line. You got a couple on defense with Darius Robinson, Max Melton. You got 3 second-year guys that are still starting, slated to start. Michael Wilson, the wide receiver, Paris Johnson on the line. Their nickel corner and Garrett Williams. So, that's where I'd start is just how these young guys are the second-year guys going to make another step, and are the first-year guys going to look like they belong?
I think that's a fair assessment or question or whatever else there. They're a football team that's been rebuilding the last 2 years. And they got a lot of guys where I think you and me are we're excited, but we're well, we don't know yet. We got to see where it goes, right? So, I think that's a fair way to put it, right? Yeah. My football mind was kind of along the same lines as you to a degree, but it's a lot like I've been talking about with 2 other teams already. I think when I just look at the roster itself, my biggest question is still cover corner. That would be the position I look at and go, let's see. We got to see Max Melton. I love him, but how good could he be as a rookie? Murphy Bunting is a good slot guy, right? But now you got Garrett Williams on the other side who surprised some people as a rookie, right? I think he's out of Syracuse, if I remember that correctly, right? Yep. Right? But Marco Wilson, that relationship deteriorated last year to where they trade him midway through the year. He was really their best corner going into last season. So, that would be the one thing I would look at. Safety play is good, right? So it is the youngness and who on their front 7 pops. And we talked about that before the draft, and that's why I didn't want to say that again, because I was if we had our question about who on their front 7 pops, and that goes again into your young question: can Darius Robinson be that guy, late first-round pick that can kind of be make plays up and do all that stuff?
Yeah, you like the guy. Max Melton was your number 4.
I love Max Melton.
Corner.
Yes, I do.
Marvin Harrison was your top 3 wide receiver, which you were that's bad. How is that bad? Top 3 in the whole nation? Come on.
I like the Dadrian Taylor-Demerson pick they had, the other safety that they took out of Texas Tech. I thought he was one of the more athletic. Yeah, we liked him. We were one of the guys where we were that is the type of movement you like to see out of the safety position, right? They got 2 damn good safeties there in Arizona, that's for sure. But I kind of think those are the burning questions to me, right? I think they've made some appropriate adjustments to the offensive line where, last year I would have questioned that. But I don't have that as much of a burning question this year. I think it's the young guys and like I said, the corners, the unproven corners, and are they going to be good enough to hold up during the year against, Matt Stafford and Purdy and Ayuk and Debo and all those guys.
Tough division, although I think they can hang with Seattle for sure.
I hear you.
I think this might be the ultimate fun year for the Cardinals because you got a good quarterback that's fun to watch and fun to root for. You don't have super high expectations. If you're in the mix for a playoff spot with some of these young guys,
right?
You're happy.
Yeah.
I think it's the ultimate year.
I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah,
right. I'm excited to see the Cardinals. I really am. They were fun to watch last year. I really like the way they're coached on both sides of the ball. And that to me was the reason they surprised us last year because of their game planning and the things they could do on both sides. It made them a pain in the ass, and now they got the players to kind of hopefully go along with it here.
The Buccaneers surprised some people in the NFC South because we didn't think any team was going to make the playoffs from the NFC South. I know technically that has to happen, but still there was some doubt. But the Buccaneers did it, and they lost to my Detroit Lions. I'm sorry about that. Baker Mayfield is back. They paid up to keep him there. Pete's first burning question for him is, does Baker Mayfield keep improving without Dave Canales? He's over in Carolina now.
Yeah.
Was it all Dave? Was it Dave and Baker? Obviously, it was a combination.
No, first off, I feel like it's only going to go up and up with Baker Mayfield and his ability to lead, take over that team, or whatever else there in Tampa Bay. I don't, again, Dave Canales, that offense, I liked it. They made adjustments. I certainly wasn't sitting there looking at it going like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest offense I've seen in football, right? I will also say that I think I was a little even surprised that, he got a head coaching job. I wasn't expecting that, right? So, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference for their football team, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. Now, you look at the rest of their football team, there's a lot of good. I mean, throughout. Like, I didn't have, like, a big question where I was like, oh, that's an area, right? Yeah. The offensive line, I mean, we know that could be something, but Barton Graham there and them drafting him, that's certainly going to help out. But I don't think it's a big issue as we go here. I like their tackles and Gadecki and Wirfs. Cody Mauch going into year 2, right? Young physical guard. All right, so I like that. You look at the defensive side of the ball, and I like a lot too. I think the big thing with the defense, and probably my burning question, would be, pass rusher, right? I know Yaya Diaby was the pleasant surprise, right, as a rookie in what he did, right? But still, what did he end up with, 7.5 sacks? I'm going off the top of my head. That was the pleasant surprise we're talking about, right? So it wasn't like it's world-beating that way. So that, to me, would be still something I would go, who can be some guys that can come off the edge and apply pressure when they're playing that team where they're going, wait, we don't want to blitz this quarterback. We don't want to do that. We need to get there with the front four. We got to cover here. We got to do that. That I think is probably the thing that jumps out to me more than anything about this football team.
Yaya Diaby last year, 7.5 sacks.
7.5
How did
sacks.
you do that? How did you just do that?
I'm pretty good with...
That's sick. I think that is sick.
I'm pretty good with...
Should not happen.
I'm not smart in a lot of ways, but I am smart in the fact that... for whatever reason, when it comes to football and numbers, and I look at them, I can remember.
Yeah, it's just baked in your head. You're like, Yaya Diaby, 7.5.
Really, I can bake it in my head. Now, what was not baked in my head is I could not remember the offensive coordinator's name, and I had to look that up, and I got to that Liam Cohen, right?
Okay.
Right? So, yeah, I don't know if the defense is going to look a whole lot different, right?
The defense?
I mean, the offense, excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to look a whole lot
Mike
different.
Evans back. You got Baker back. You got, Ben Bredesen. I think he started 16 games for the Giants last year, along with Graham Barton. So you got a little new infusion on the offensive line. 29th in passing yards allowed per game last year for the defense.
Right.
17th in sack rate, so middle of the road. But overall, and this is a credit to Todd Bowles and everyone over there, they were tied for 6th in points allowed per game. So
they
how about
were
that?
Definitely bend don't break last year. That's the approach they took. There's no doubt about that. I think the other thing you just brought up there would be the question a little bit, right? Is they traded away Carlton Davis, right? He's on your Detroit Lions now. he was clearly their best man-to-man guy.
I hope so.
But with their defense and stuff, they can be a hair too aggressive at times, that's for sure. But I also think with some of those defensive stats that we're talking about, that's where the pass rush is going to help out a little bit.
Yeah.
And hoping like a Kalijah Kancey can take the next step with the Byron Young, and Vita Vea can continue to be dominant, and maybe the guy Chris Broswell out of Alabama, who we both like coming off the edge, he can add something along with Tryon Shanko, and they can do it that way. But, yeah, I think it is defensive more is where I have those questions about them.
Good news, it doesn't take much to win this division. Let's go to the Saints now. And the New Orleans Saints had a pretty terrible rushing offense last year by the numbers. They were 31st in yards per carry, so just not very efficient there. Got Tali Fuanga.
Yep.
The starting left tackle, although you think he's more of a guard, but they're going to put him there.
I think so.
Potentially a tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he can do both, like we talked about in the process, but I think he is made to be a guard in the NFL, and not just like made to be it, like be like one of the best guards in football, period, right? And then we talked about a little bit in our pre-draft process, right? The Ryan Ramczyk, like his injury status and where he's at. Is he going to make a full recovery there?
Yep.
Right? They had James Hurst retire, I believe, the day of the draft or the day before the draft, right? The guard there. So, there's some things, I guess, to question about their offensive line as we go forward here. They're an interesting team altogether.
Well, they were 9-8 last year.
Yes.
And so maybe better than people remember.
Right.
The Bucs finished 9-8, so they just basically lost on the tiebreaker. Not just basically. They did lose on the tiebreaker. But they didn't spend a ton of money.
Nope. They can't. They're salary cap strapped.
Tali Fuanga is the only rookie they drafted who's slated to start. Did they do enough to expect a jump from 9-8?
I don't think they did. I don't see it that way. I mean, again, I like the draft, but I'm not blown away with it, right? I mean, Fuanga, I do think it's an instant contributor, and by all due accounts is probably going to play a left tackle for them as it sits right now, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I like Kool-Aid McKinstry. But I will say to that too, the one thing with them is, damn, they got some young talent at the corner position in the secondary in general, right? My big thing with them, I think more than anything, is an aging, underwhelming front seven. That is where I felt like I saw a drop off in their football team as compared to the years before. Right, where we had a number of years where the Saints were like one of the best run-stopping defenses in football in the end of the Sean Payton era, and even the first year Dennis Allen took over. Right, last year that was not the case. You could run the ball on them, quite effectively, and then you get into the pass rush conversation, right? And you go, well, they're not very impressive there either. They're going to have to find ways to coach it up and blitz and do stuff that way as well, right? Jordan Cameron's really, really awesome player. Probably got a chance to go to the Hall of Fame, right? Mm-hmm. But as a double-digit sack artist anymore, no, I don't think that's the case. And then what? I mean, you got Chase Young. Are they gonna place Chase Young over him? Or is it going to be Chase Young at one DN and it's going to be Cameron Jordan at the other DN with Brian Brzee or Kalen Sanders inside or Nathan Shepard, two of those three, right? Yeah, I'm interested to see how they play it out. But as you sit here and talk about it, right, you go, well, none of those names are like, oh, I'm excited and my blood's boiling.
None super inspiring.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
I do like Willie Gay, and they locked up Demario Davis. I mean, so the linebacker, I do like kind of like those guys.
I do too.
Part of a team, but it's like, who's the wow? Who's the
wow? Their wow stand-up guys are in their secondary.
Yep.
Right? That's the guys I feel like you and I have waxed poetically about. We know Lattimore can still be damn good if he stays healthy, but he is getting up there in age. And, there was rumors that he might get traded this offseason, right? I don't know if I'd still be shocked if he got traded before the season started here. But I like Paulson Adebo, right? Paulson Adebo to me is becoming one of the best man-to-man cover corners in all of football. So I like that aspect. The big thing is the defensive front seven lacks inspiration. The other thing, too, is, can they run the ball? Can they make Derek Carr hang in there and throw the ball down the field?
Yeah.
Right? That was our big issue with them.
They've never had that true running game, like Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. I mean, that's the running game, right? Like those little swing passes, too. It's like, so I don't know. Yeah, make life easier on him. Tomas Pena wants to know, without Michael Thomas, the Saints don't have a true physical red zone wide receiver anymore besides A.T. Perry. Do you think Kubiak's system will rely more on speed? And so the wide receiver room is Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and A.T. Perry. I didn't realize how tall A.T. Perry was. I was looking him up, 6'5".
Yeah.
So he really is. I mean, he played in 10 games last year.
Right.
Had 12 catches. 4 of those were touchdowns.
Yeah.
10 of them were first downs.
Right. No, he's he was part of that group of receivers a few years ago out of Wake Forest where you're like, damn, this guy's kind of good, but like we're not even going to get a chance to talk about him because he's, maybe the 10th, 12th best receiver in the draft that year, right? And, hopefully maybe he proves us wrong there. But no, he's got size there. First off, what I would say is, Michael Thomas has barely been on your football team for 3 years. So, what are we really worried about? Like, last year was the first time he's contributed in, half a century here. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it's that big of a blow. What is Rashid Shaheed is not a small guy, is
6
he?
foot.
He's 5. Yeah, okay. He's 6 foot. Okay. All right. That's not the worst, but yeah, I understand that 5'11" and change, right? But no, I don't think you need to worry about it in that aspect. I don't. I think the big thing to me more than anything is like we talked about when we talked about all year last year, and what really jumped out to me when I would watch the Saints on film is Derek Carr not letting plays develop, not letting receivers work downfield, and being too quick to take the underneath route where you just go, wait, you're protected, pat the ball one more time, and Olave's about to be open for a 30-yard gain. And that, to me, would be almost as equally as a burning question as we talked about with the uninspiring front seven.
Okay, all right. So a couple of burning questions there for the Saints. The Falcons. The burning question, why did they take Michael Penix with the number 8 overall pick? We'll be asking that all season. We won't get into that again. When you look at the Falcons and the way they have constructed this roster, first year for Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson comes in as the new offensive coordinator.
Right.
It is kind of interesting looking at the metrics last year. They underperformed in both the yardage metrics last year. So offensively, yardage-wise, they were like mid-pack, but they were 26th in points per game. Defensively, they were top 10 in most of the yardage metrics, but they were 18th in points allowed per game. Just didn't get a lot of interceptions, didn't get a lot of negative plays there. So,
well, and the offense plays into that too a little bit, right? But we had high expectations for them to a degree last year, right? I picked them to win the NFC South before the season. There's a lot I like on their football team and their roster. Again, we have the quarterback issue, kerfuffle, whatever, right?
But now you got 2.
I know, so it's not that bad.
No,
I know.
It's a head scratcher, but at the end of the day, you're like, all right, well, now we got 2 good quarterbacks.
And Taylor Heineke's there. They got 3. There you go. It's like, holy shit. Okay, so they got that. I think when you look at them totally, our biggest question about them was, can they throw the football, like we've joked about, right? That's not going to be an issue anymore. I don't think that's something you have to worry about. Right now, defensively, I like their defense. I do. I think the only thing you question or want more of or whatever is pass rusher. That's my only thing that I question. I don't know. You challenge me. Is there something else that jumps out to you in a big way, right? But like Grady Jarrett's still pretty good damn player. David Onyemata inside, good. I love Zach Harrison out of Ohio State. He was one of our kind of Robin Hood D linemen from draft 2 years ago. All right. The secondary, what I think of A.J. Terrell when healthy. I think he's one of the better corners in football. Jesse Bates is phenomenal, right? To me, when I just look at them all together, to me it's like, hey, I like Lorenzo Carter as an outside linebacker. I like Ebikite, or I hope I'm saying that right, from Penn State, right? But like, does that mean I think they're a top tier, like, hey, it's 3rd and 7 and they're going to have the quarterback and get pressure? I think that's by far my biggest burning question.
I wonder if there was any defensive edge guys available at 8 in the draft. I can't remember exactly.
Well, yeah, right. There's a reason that, Dallas Turner, Byron Murphys of the world, right? A lot too.
The funny thing is, like Dallas Turner to the Falcons at number 8 was like consensus mock. That was like the
everybody.
Like the mocks would disagree on a few picks, but the one pick everyone agreed on was Dallas Turner to the Falcons at 8?
Because I think a lot of people had this thought, so we're having. You looked at it and you went, wait, there's a little bit of an issue here in this area. They could use somebody who could beat a tackle one-on-one off the edge and be a handful that way. But it seems like they're going to kind of do it with bodies and a lot of good players at different positions, and we'll see. Maybe the Braylon Trice out of Washington can be that guy. And then, hey, they got 2 good D linemen that we kind of liked in the draft. They got your guy and Brandon Dorlus and my guy and Ruka Rororo.
Why do you keep putting Brandon Dorlus as my guy?
Well, because he's your guy. I mean, you specifically texted us on a Sunday night about this is my guy.
I didn't
Look at
say
him.
that. No, I go, hey, I just came across this random tweet.
Right.
Just making sure we don't miss a guy.
Right.
Here he is. I haven't even looked at him yet, and now it's like
it's your guy.
My reputation
guy. So
rests
they're
on
gonna
his
hope those
career.
guys can disrupt and do some like Aaron Donald stuff in the middle and be that kind of guy there too. But the pass rush thing is still prevalent to me.
It'll be interesting to see the wide receivers too. They brought in Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
Gave him 3 years, $39 million. They brought in Rondale Moore, trade.
Yeah.
So it's like those guys have underproduced maybe to their abilities, and so it'll be interesting with Kirk Cousins in there. And
they're going to fit this offense,
right?
Right. That is the big thing there, and I think they needed some guys like that. Like that's what we bothered us about. The Atlanta Falcons is there's it's Pitts who's big guy and Drake London who's big guy, but who's the jitterbug? Who's the guy that can take the top off the defense, right? And they address both of those. Now, you have a slot Rondale Moore or Kirk Cousins can use him all day, right? And then you got a guy in Darnell Mooney who can kind of do it all, but specifically can take the top off the defense and be dangerous that way.
One more team to talk about in the NFC South, and that is Dave Canale's new team, the Panthers, and the burning question for Pete. He has been known as the quarterback whisperer. Can he now whisper into the ear of Bryce Young?
They're going to be better on that side of the ball. How much better? Right? I think that's still debatable. I mean, I certainly still have questions about that aspect of their football team. Right? Like Florio and I today talked about second-year quarterbacks and their supporting cast. I mean, I would still say Bryce Young is towards the bottom of that list with his supporting cast and what he has. Is it better than last year? Sure. But Xavier Legette, hey, he's raw. How good is he going to be in the NFL right here in year one?
Yeah.
Right? Deontay Johnson, it's kind of been all over the place a little bit throughout his career, but I do think he can do it all and has no real weakness. He's a phenomenal route runner. The running back position, yeah, it's improved if Jonathan Brooks is 100% healthy after his ACL, right? But that's kind of an if. Tommy Tremble's still proving himself as a tight end in the NFL. You got Thielen, who's up there in age and certainly not going on an upward trajectory, right? So, I mean, to me is almost, again, a little, them is just, is there enough firepower on offense?
Yeah.
Is there enough there to really still look at it and go, well, our number one pick looks like the number one pick, right? And I think that would probably be still the number one burning question to me as I look at that.
I mean, they're definitely better than they were, like you said.
Right.
And I like what they did with their guard starters, too. I mean, they spent money. They
was
were like, we got
the
to
best
protect
thing they
Bryce.
did.
And you got Robert Hunt there, 5 years, $100 million. Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the highest paid guards in football.
Previous 4 years with the Dolphins. Then you got Damian Lewis, 4 years, $53 million. Was over in Seattle for the previous 4 years. And so they're trying to, they're doing everything they can. We don't want this investment in Bryce Young to be ruined. I thought this was so interesting in looking at the numbers for them last year, is that their defense was fourth in yards allowed per game. They were the fourth best in yards allowed per game last year.
I know.
But they were 29th in points allowed per game.
Yeah.
Which just goes to speak of a broken football team and a terrible offense, what that can do in the positions it puts the defense into.
The defense is great, but they're like, oh, Bryce threw another interception and the team has the ball at the 8-yard line going in. Damn, we let up a touchdown.
Yep.
Right? It's up. Yeah, our points per game is up now. Oh, somebody fumbled and they picked it up and ran for a touchdown, right? Or, like you're saying, the offense can't get out of its own end. And it's like, okay, every fourth play we're on. And not only are we on at the midfield point, right? So we're not letting up a lot of yards, but you're getting points because it's one completion and you get a field goal, right? So that's all plays into it. E.J. Evero is one of the best D coordinators in football. Like, he's awesome. He's Raheem Morris Jr. That's what he is. Outside the box thinker, can do it all, gets his players to play with energy, all of that. So, yeah, that's where, I like Carolina's defense in a lot of ways. It's not perfect, but I like it a lot.
I would venture to say that's never happened before in the history of the NFL. A team top 5 in yards allowed per game was bottom 3 or 4
and points allowed.
You're right.
I would think that's really rare.
Like the other teams that are down there for points allowed per game, their yards allowed per game, 32, 25, 26, 24, 29, 27, 30, 28.
Right.
It's usually pretty similar.
Right.
And so I do think, they lost Brian Burns, obviously their best defensive player.
Right.
But I think it was a defense that could, if you're going to make a trade and reallocate assets, that's what you got to do.
Let's do that.
I think that's a pretty smart move.
I think that's why they did it. Right. They're trying to save money. They traded to get Bryce Young. They lost those assets. It gives a few back. You brought up the offensive line additions. I think that was the perfect start for Bryce Young anyways. They got to make him feel protected and comfortable, right? He's never going to be good in the NFL unless he has that. He's too small. So it's got to be done. And that was the right approach. And we know they got pretty good tackles to go in there already in Carolina. So now you got the middle part of that O-line shirt up. That's the good thing. But I still think it's, the weapons, Bryce Young's development, however you want to say that. I think that's a real question. Again, there was games last year where I know it wasn't perfect, but as you and I both know, it was like, whoa, that looked really bad for a number 1 pick, right?
Yeah.
That looked bad. And I know they didn't help him out a lot, and, it's not easy, certainly. But in their heart of hearts, those people who made the decision to draft him have to be a little bit like, I hope this works out. I hope it is. And they're trying to make the right things. But, yeah, I think you said it right. The defense, you look at that, I don't have many questions about that group over there.
All right, closing the book on the NFC South now to the NFC North, the Lions division. Pete puts here as the first burning question for them. They go, how many points will they win the Super Bowl by? Which is, he goes, JK, JK, JK. But I will say, though, I think it is a valid question. I don't think it'll be by a lot. I think it'll be a close game. But ultimately, 56-14, I think is what they win the Super Bowl by.
You lose 56-14, you're probably up 14-10 and go for it on a 4th down on the 1-yard line and don't get it, and then you get blown out.
Maybe they'll have a better kicker, so they won't have to do that if we want to get back into it. So the Lions, I like this first one here by raising Lion 5. Lions, is Jamo ready to be the full-time number 2 wide receiver in your opinion? And if so, do we have a number 3 wide receiver, or should we look to sign a veteran like a Zay Jones? Now, Zay is visiting or has visited. Pete notes here the Titans, Cardinals, and Cowboys. Come on, make your way to Detroit. It's beautiful this time of year. I do think that is one of the questions for the Lions because you lost Josh Reynolds.
I'm with you. It might be the question, right? Again, you're talking about your team. Your team's awesome. Okay,
Thank you.
They're good. They're well built. I don't like. Where do you really want to dive into it and question anything? Right.
Defense last year and the past defense, but they've done
so many things, right?
That.
So yeah, we could say we got to see how that looks as the finished product. But I don't think it's a burning question. I think that, hey, you guys got good coaches, you got better players. I put lotion on it, and I don't think you're going to get burned by your secondary this year. I think it's going to be better. All right, that's what I'm saying there.
Yeah,
I do. I think the proper adjustments were made. Terrion Arnold is a day 1 ready to go NFL, nickel secondary player. Regardless, we like Enos Rakestraw. I like Amik Robertson, and I like Carlton Davis because he's I'm here, I'll cover that guy over there, don't worry coach, whatever you call with the rest of the guys, I got this guy man to man. To me it's that. And the one other thing, okay, so I'm not there. The only other thing you can question, and I think Jameson Williams is the burning question, I really do, but we talked about the pre-draft process too, just another edge rusher, right?
Yep.
They're kind of a little bit in we're hoping Marcus Davenport can live up to that first-round billing that he had, 6 years ago in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
He's had a lot of injuries. It just hasn't quite worked out. To me, it's that or Jameson Williams. And if Jameson Williams goes where I think he's about to go, But I know I can't. I'm predicting. I can't say it, right? It's set in stone. I think it's going to go to the next level. From what we saw at the end of the year, right? I know, again, it wasn't perfect, but he was running by people on the regular, And like a few times we talked about on Sunday nights or even Wednesday film, what the happened, right? Where I came in and I was like, Goff is going to look at the film and go, I should have just waited a half a second. Jameson, but these are things that'll be made adjustments in the offseason. Now he'll have confidence and go, wait, Jameson knew what to do last year. He's good there. Wait, on some of these plays, I got to remember it's Jameson and he's going to pop open here, right? And I think there was some plays missed last year because of that.
Yeah.
And it started to pop a little bit. But if he becomes what we think he can become, right? And then you couple that with Amon-Ra St. Brown. No, you don't need a third receiver. Khalif Raymond is a perfect third receiver to go with that group, I think. Or you can couple it and go, wait, we got our man Jameson outside and a Donovan People-Jones outside, and now we got Amon-Ra St. Brown working the slot, right? So you have a little versatility of how you could play with that group there. But I don't know if I look at it and go, there's a desperate need there for anybody to come in there and save the day at that position.
No, I agree. And I think what they did in the defensive secondary, what more can you do, really?
That's right.
First two picks,
right?
Carlton Davis, and
right.
I mean, we're not even talking about Amik Robertson from.
I know. I brought his name. I said it. I was like, we like him, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you look at the depth of their team, and you go like, holy shit, the depth of the team. I mean, you guys, it looks like you could lose 4 starters, and you'd go, wait, these guys aren't starters that are coming in? I mean, they've done a phenomenal job. They really do. I think it's all, fluff, cream, polish, whatever. And
what it sounds like,
Jameson Williams,
is they might be your pick to win the NFC and get to the Super Bowl from this conference.
Well, you're in that combo. I don't think there's no doubting that.
Here's what I'm scared about, though, is that with the Lions, they had their success last year. Everyone was rooting for them, but now people are going to be like, but I think the Packers are actually kind of fun. Jordan Love's a great quarterback. Maybe he's a top 5 quarterback and can win this division. I do think the Packers could be a popular pick to win the NFC North. Do you feel that too?
I picked them to win the North last year, right? I went to Kansas City, Detroit. All I got from the Lions fans was, you idiot, I can't believe you picked the Packers to win the division.
You can't do it again. You can't do it again.
But I think to your point, it is fair to, your division's good.
It's a good division.
It's gotten a lot better here in a very short period of time. I think that's the first thing you talk about. And this team, a lot like your team, when you look at it, you just go, what's not to like? What's the area that's really like, oh, wow, they need an adjustment here? I mean, some of it's just like, can Eric Stokes stay healthy at corner, right? Like, how good can they be if just Jair and Eric Stokes can be healthy all year long, right? I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, I have one question. Quay Walker, can he take the next step of being disciplined, physical, and really being an awesome middle linebacker? Because he's an awesome athlete, but there's times of, running around with a chicken with your head cut off a little bit, right? That would be the only thing. But you look at the rest of the defense. I mean, I like their defense and their skills, their talent level, their depth, all of it there. I mean, it's all great.
I mean, that whole linebacker area, because they drafted the guy out of Texas A&M, right? Edgerrin Cooper. I think that would be a question.
I think that's what they're questioning. I think they're not happy with Quay Walker's play there. They lost Devondre Campbell, right? So that, to me, is the question, is right in there. Right? I think the only other question that you dive into, and again, we get to the offensive side of the ball, and you go, what again, where's there to look at to go, okay, is Jordan Morgan, can he handle playing left tackle? Will he be a guard? I don't know, right? They're getting a lot of flack for that pick, which I don't understand. I mean, Jordan Morgan, I think, as we discussed, I think it was pretty clear he was part of that cluster of guys we thought could go at the end of the first round, right? A lot of people are getting on Green Bay for that pick, and seems like a draft pundit fan thing where the rest of the NFL is literally like, wait, he's really good. What are you guys so mad about there, right? But offensively, what's there to look at there too? I mean, what is there? Here's a burning question. Can Jordan Love handle the success? Can he continue to improve?
So here we go.
And can Christian Watson stay healthy? That would be my thing on the offense. But I think your linebacker thing is where I go at the end of the day.
Because they need they would need a one receiver. Although I would say that Dontavian Wicks last year was awesome.
He was.
And Jayden Reed was awesome last year.
And we know
Dobbs is good.
Right.
So they were good even without
young
with the
tight ends.
Injuries with Christian Watson. King Crow Snow 1. Was Jordan Love's end of the season a fluke or the start of something great?
I think it's going to be the start of something great. I do. That's where that I would bet on. You know, it's a shame that he threw the 2 bad interceptions late in the football game against the 49ers. I do think they probably would have won that game and ended up playing your Lions in Detroit for the NFC Championship. Right. And then, therefore, you guys would have gone to the Super Bowl, and I don't know what would have happened, you know. Gosh, yeah. What could have been? What could have been? But no, I think that at King Crow Snow 1, this is just a jump-off spot. I do. I think what we saw, you know, they brought him along the right way. Right? And when they got a little confidence, they started to open up the offense. As we saw, they pushed the ball down the football field. And, man, he made a lot of plays that we jaw drop, throws, everything. And I think that will continue. So, I'm not really too worried about Jordan Love there.
It could have gone either way because they were 2-5 to start last season. The GM, Brian Gutekunst, said these are very important final 10 games for Jordan Love. But it was, between the beginning and end of the year, as Pete says in my ear, it was a starking difference. It was a starking difference between what we saw early and what we saw late.
No, it was. And I think that game, let me see if I can get to it or think about it here a little bit. We got into that, slow start, 2-3.
Well, the funny thing with a slow start, too, is he had a couple of good fourth-quarter comebacks.
Exactly, whereas he didn't do much, but, he played good in the fourth quarter or whatever else, right? But I think it was that really, I think it might have been the week before your Lions Thanksgiving game, right? That was the game where I think we all looked. They were playing the Chargers, and we were kind of like, damn, Jordan Love's making a lot of throws today, but it's the Chargers. They suck. Their defense, right? They're no freaking good. It's kind of like that. But then I went to Thanksgiving Day, and they came out throwing bombs on you guys the first play.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit. Yeah. They got it. They're hot. They're like, this isn't lucky. They're feeling it right now. And they were never the same, and they were damn dangerous on that side of the ball from that point on.
Outside of the NFC Championship game, that was the worst day for Lions fans last year because we were all – it was like finally
your day.
We can showcase this new and improved Detroit Lions team. And then down 21-0, I think, before he even blinked. Love had a season-high 322 pass yards in that Chargers game and then got rolling into Detroit. All right, let's go to the Vikings now. The question from Jeff Lasota. How soon does J.J. McCarthy start for the Vikings, and how soon does he take them to the Super Bowl? All right, well, they're in the Lions division, so it's going to be a long time for the Super Bowl. But J.J. McCarthy, again, a guy that I will root for as a Michigan Wolverine as well. Yeah, what do you think this looks like here in Minnesota with the quarterback room?
I like the fit, right? Right, where I think he fits that system, and I think he'll be the starter from day one.
Sam Darnold is the backup.
Yeah, right. I like Sam. I feel bad for Sam because I want to go, damn, if they didn't draft this guy or it just, didn't get a quarterback or whatever, I think Sam could have thrived in this offense as well. But, damn, this is we traded up a spot to get this guy in the top 10. So that's done.
It will be a story, though, because I do think it won't be one of those situations, I don't think, where they're going to just go into camp and be like, hey, JJ's our guy.
They're not just going to hand it to him. Yeah. No. He's going to be, I think he'd be favored. He'll start off as the backup, probably the first OTA, right? Then have at some point, hopefully they hope in one of the first 2 OTA sessions, he has a good little showing to then where the next OTA session they can go, hey, we're going to let you start with the ones today a little bit, right? You're not the number one yet, but today you'll get to start with the ones, and tomorrow we'll probably go back to Sam. But they'll slowly start to infuse it into their team, into the brains of everybody that way to kind of massage it in there to know what to expect. And I think that, ultimately, as long as he doesn't totally shit the bed, right, that he will be the starting quarterback. Again, like we've talked about, he played NFL football. He's going to be that's what he did in Michigan. He ran an NFL offense. And I think, again, he's working for a guy that knows how to make quarterback life easy in the NFL.
Pete says if Kevin O'Connell could prepare Josh Dobbs in the middle of one game, you'd think he'd be able to prepare JJ with a full offseason of preparation. Nuevo Huevo has a question for you.
Yeah.
Or a statement of the biggest burning question.
Right.
While the Vikings' weapons have people optimistic about McCarthy's potential as a rookie, Minnesota was 32nd in rushing offense last year. I think this adds pressure to JJ as they would see more frequent third and long situations. Do you agree with that? And how big of a concern is it?
Yeah, I think that's they got to be better there, right? As much as O'Connell is awesome in the pass game, if there was a place where I could go, Kevin O'Connell can improve his offensive genius, would be tying a little more creative in the run game and maybe tying the run game with the pass game a little bit more too. That to me is where maybe compared to some other great OCs in football, he's not up to the Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, McVay level, right? I'm probably missing somebody else out there off the top of my brain, no disrespect. He's not at their level of like running game plan, what they do, all of that. I think that could improve. And then, of course, with that, I think the interior, like to me, there's two things on the Vikings, like what they did in the offseason, right? I thought it was a very good offseason by them. And the draft, how could you not like, the first two picks that you get those guys, right? One of their questions was, do they have a pass rusher that can disrupt and be that guy, right? Now you got two of them, right? They got Greenard and him. I love that combination. You got a Van Ginkel who could do it all a little bit.
I like all those guys.
Right? You got to. It's awesome. But here's my big thing. And I talked about this with Devin McCourty a little yesterday. Corner is by far the biggest burning question for me with them. They would have been one of the teams I would list for Xavier Howard, and I go, wait, Brian Flores, you coached Xavier Howard. That makes sense, right? They did it so much last year with just Flores being creative and thinking outside the box and doing shit where you were like, they can't do that. Oh my gosh. But they did some of that stuff to such an extent that even offenses were like, well, they'll never do that against us. They'll never just blitz this guy and drop everybody over here. And it's like, well, no, his team's not good enough, so he will do that because he's got to do some unexpected stuff. But too much was on his shoulders last year. And, of course, we know he's from New England, and we know he likes to play man-to-man. And they were not able to do that, and they still don't really have that kind of guy. They got some good secondary players, certainly, but nothing that I go, wait, when it's DJ Moore time, right, or it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's 3rd and 5, we got to you go get DJ Moore, okay? They don't have that, and that would scare me a little bit about their team.
I think both of those. On the defensive secondary for the Vikings and the rushing offense to Aaron Jones. I mean, they signed there, but, I don't know that they did a whole lot. If they do face some 3rd and long situations, though, Pete notes here that JJ, one of the things that you liked about him at Michigan, a lot of people liked about him, is that he was able to convert and
that is
not crumble in those situations.
Exactly. I don't see. That's where I have no worries about him in that department, like zero. He will throw it and be aggressive and stand in the pocket and make those big throws like you saw a million times there. And he calls those type of plays, and then you couple that on to what we've talked about. Their tackles can really protect. They can protect the quarterback. So he's going to have time to let Justin Jefferson, work down the field and that group to make big plays. And, yeah, I don't worry about him there. I don't, not at all.
Quarterback is always a burning-ish question for all these teams. We try not to make every burning-ist question about the quarterback, but we go to the Chicago Bears, and that's going to be the one thing that I am most interested to see about them this year is Caleb Williams. There's a lot of chatter. He did things, bad habits. Can he function in an NFL-style offense? Right. Is he really the next Patrick Mahomes?
Right.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out pretty early because he does. It's not like one of those situations like you mentioned before where he won't have the things around him to actually show his full potential. It should be there.
It's weird. But the number one team in the draft, right? The number one pick. You kind of look at the team and you're like, this is the team that picked number one? That's why you're a little nervous this year.
I don't like it.
Yeah, because like you just said, Green Bay, we just talked to, they're talented. Chicago is talented too. I mean, the first thing you go, all right, so here's the first thing is there's nothing to worry about on defense. Let's just break it that way. Like what I don't know if you have their roster pulled up or however.
So let me say this. So I will say this because I try to poke holes in the Bears because I hate them, right? And so it's like I didn't want to just give them like a lot of reasons to be optimistic.
So let me hear your holes.
So last year their defense was first in rushing yards allowed per game, but they were 25th in passing yards allowed per game. And I don't know if that's a function of the way the games went or how it was played, but they didn't shut down other teams' passing offense. defenses.
Yep.
They did re-sign Jalen Johnson. They did sign Kevin Byard. They did sign Jonathan Owen, so their safeties are a little bit different this year, but that was a weakness for them last year.
Right. So here's that. It is a great point. Now, what I would love to know, and maybe Pete can look this up because he's really good on the computer here.
Yeah. A cute searcher.
He's cute. He's cute, and he's good on it. He's cute.
But what's his neck like? What's his neck like? We gotta.
His neck it could use some work. All right, he could use a few exercises there. But first off, I think if you looked towards the end of the season, like let's say just the last half of the season, I would bet you those numbers are dramatically different. Right? I think a lot of that is early the season, like. That we were messed up, and we don't have a pass rush. And when Montez Sweat got there, I bet you that changed as well, which was somewhere close to the midpoint of the season. Yeah. But I would be interested, and we'll see if maybe Pete can look that up, as to be that right there. And they had a young rookie corner and Stevenson, who they were playing a lot over there, who I think is very good, but not perfect yet. Right, but I think is like, hey, you're good with him and Jalen Johnson as your corners. I like that little combo right there, and Kyler Gordon at nickel. I do, right? So I think that'll change this year. That stat, okay, altogether. And where'd they end up? 12th in defense overall. Right, and this is they're aggressive. They play man to man. They get in your face. They don't give you anything, right? So that's where they can be a little bit misleading in. Hey, you got a big play. It was a 50-yard pass, whatever else. But now we've kind of locked you down, and you settled for a field goal or whatever else. They were kind of good in that aspect. Let alone we know their offense was a little, inconsistent at times too. But what was the point I was trying to make? Either way, I guess is what I'm saying.
No questions on the defensive side. Yes. I tried to give you. Montez Sweat, who's their other pass rusher.
Yeah.
That would be a question too, but.
The guy opposite of him. You're saying, no. I think
most teams don't have to.
No, so. And maybe that's where Austin Booker, the Dominique Robinson guy, comes in, and they do have a DeMarcus Walker, who's just a really good strong side D end. Where it's like, wait, he's a good player. It's not a sack master, right? Yeah. I think they're shocking to me to where the burning question I think is the obvious question. It's just how good can the offense be, and how good can he be? Right? I don't like a little bit like you kind of said, and like we've talked about with a few other teams. I go, what offensive line? I like their offensive line. Receivers, of course. Running backs, it's one of the better running back rooms in all of football, right? And we know the tight ends are good. So that to me is just like, can they, by week 4, here's the burning question. By week 4, can they play like, whoa, we're putting pressure on you with our offense? Or are they still playing, we're going to play through our defense and we're just going to be a little careful with Caleb, and I hope he makes a play here and there and just doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and we're going to win that way?
Yeah.
But if it's the other way, where it's almost a little Mahomes-ish, right? Where it was like, whoa, week 2 and 3, we're like, what the is this guy? He's taking over the league already, right? He went to the Chargers and beat the Chargers out there in L.A., and then he went to Pittsburgh and threw like 5 touchdowns in the first half, and we were like, holy crap, he's good, right? That to me is the burning question. It's just where they're at there. Because if it is at a level to where it gets to be like, whoa, like there's no training wheels on. They're attacking. Right? And with that defense, I'd go watch out, everybody, because the Bears are going to be a real pain in the ass, and maybe even a playoff football team.
I think with Caleb, there is a chance it's a little Jameis-ish, right? Where it's just like there are these great plays. But I saw the game against Notre Dame.
I know. Everybody's scarred by that. I know.
But I was like, that's the only one I saw him in person play. And so it's like, but you can see that. It's like, could he throw 30 touchdowns and 20 interceptions? Like, it wouldn't surprise you necessarily. I don't know exactly how they're going to work it. Pete has done some research here, a couple of things here.
Okay, cool.
The Bears were the first team in 45 years to hold the #1 pick without earning it with the worst record or trading up for it that offseason. So they were able to do it without, giving away a whole lot of assets.
So it's
or being
rare
terrible.
For this good of a team to be there, right?
That alone, the way that they were able to orchestrate that deal should give Ryan Poles like a 10-year contract extension, one of the best trades in the history of the NFL. And so without Sweat last season, on the defensive side here, first 8 games, they were 23rd in yards allowed, 30th in pass yards allowed, 26th in yards per pass attempt, last in sacks per pass attempt. So they were bad. The last 9 games, though, 10th in yards allowed, 15th in pass yards allowed, 9th in pass yards per attempt. Still not great in sacks per pass attempt, but everything else improved considerably. You were right. Good job, you. Good job, Pete.
Young team. They had a lot of new players on the defense last year. Well, young guys too, right? 2 new middle linebackers, right? You can't forget that. So I think that, then getting the pass rusher, right? And then let's not forget, we had to fire our defensive coordinator in the middle part of the first half of the season.
Oh, yeah,
Remember
was weird, yeah.
Right? That was weird. And it is weird. The story's weird. I'm not going to say it here. I know the story. It's weird, right? But either way, Eberflus had to take over totally, and I'm all for that. Because Eberflus, that's why you got the job, and I think you're a damn good defensive mind. I hope he keeps doing it this year and calls all the plays there too.
All right, so that is the NFC North. Close the book. One more division to go, the NFC East. We've saved the worst for last. No, I don't know about that. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, and Commanders. All got questions, though. I mean, it's a crazy year for the – it was just, 2 years ago we were saying, well, this is the best division in all of football. Yeah. And now 2 years later we're like, well, all these teams got some serious questions.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Cowboys. Let's start with the Cowboys here, and we'll start with NMFCB. Got a question.
Yeah.
I'm so puzzled to see the Cowboys starting this year without a stud running back. Elliott, Deuce Vaughn, and Royce Freeman are not running back ones on any team. How do you see this Dallas offense work without one? Running back by committee?
Well, definitely in the running for there's to me it's burning. There's 2 questions with Dallas, and that's one of them. They're like, yeah. I mean, listen, we could all talk about, okay, hey, who's the third receiver that pops up for them or has a presence, right? I think that's one question. So maybe I'm a little wrong there. I should say there's 3 that kind of popped in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. The offensive line reshuffled a little bit, whatever, but I don't sit there and look at it and go, oh, man, they're in deep trouble. There's still a lot of good there. Okay, and I know we got a rookie that we got to see how he plays. I get all that, right? But, they addressed it, and I don't think it's like a burning question, right? So now we've hit on who's the third receiver. The next thing would be, a little bit of your interior D-line. There's no Malik Collins. Does Mozzie Smith take the next step? Because last year was not impressive, right? I liked him coming out in the draft. We talked about him a lot. He's huge. He's a really good athlete. He was not good last year.
He's too big to be pushed around like he was.
Exactly right. And that continued in the NFL, just like we talked about in college, where you're just like, there's too many plays where you're too good to be this, letting guy move you like this, right? So that is definitely part of it, okay? But the running back thing to me is by far the number one question, right? I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is a backup running back for everybody in the NFL except the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Zeke Elliott is the man. He's had a great career. Man, when he came into the NFL, I mean, sometimes I see old Cowboy games, his first few years in the NFL or his last year at Ohio State, and you just go, oh, my gosh, Ezekiel Elliott was so good. I don't think we even really appreciate it, right? But not right now. No. Is he good in short yardage? Do I want him to get the ball on the 2-yard line going in for a touchdown? Sure. But you know my thoughts about him. There's just too many plays where you go, wait, there's 30 yards to be had if he can just make this guy miss or turn the corner or whatever. And there's not at a point of his career where he can do that. So that would be, I think is definitely my biggest burning question with the Dallas Cowboys is, are they going to be able to rely on somebody making more with less out of the run game? Or is it just going to be, we got to throw it at every play with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and that's just what we're going to do. And then we're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb $75 million a year because he's going to have every catch for our team, right? That's what I worry about. The other position just to hit on other than third receiver and running back, and we've talked about this, they addressed it a little bit, but I still think it's is their middle linebacker part too. We talked about it all last year. The middle part of their defense is a question. It's a question, right? And you talk about Mozzie Smith and Eric Kendricks, who's way up there in age, and Damone Clark right now is their starting linebackers, right? Those are things that I'm like, well, I'm not blown away by that.
Yeah.
But I think the running back thing is the biggest thing.
It's a team that has been there and close and 12
wins 3 years in a row.
But you're like, what have they done to get over the hump?
Exactly.
How are they better? I mean, the numbers overall, they were 5th in yards last year offensively. They were 5th in yards defensively too. So they're top 5 both offensively offensively and defensively last year. I found this interesting, though. They were not great on either side on goal-to-go situations. So they scored only 64% touchdowns down there, which was 22nd.
Too basic
or
on
26th
offense.
in the NFL. And defensively, they gave up 80%.
Too basic on defense. Oh, play man-to-man every play. They're a team that I'd go, wait, you're allowed to play zone. Let's figure out a zone. It's just it's too much of that. Let alone, I think you could run on them a little bit too if they did want to play coverage because they weren't good enough in the middle part of the defense. So that hurt them, right? Yeah. But yeah, the Cowboys, for all that and what you've said right there, right? And, top 5 this, top 5 that. I think they were very fortunate last year with the way the schedule worked out. I think they feasted on the poor.
Yeah.
That would be my assessment last year. The NFC East was not nearly as good. They got to play the AFC East, which was, okay, New England and the Jets were disasters, right? Miami was their cup of tea. Wait, team that's not very tough that just wants to play an open, fast football game. Okay, and they lost that, right? And that was our question, just like Miami. Can they win any gritty, tough football games? Can Dallas do that? They got their ass blown out by the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo late in the season, right? Super Bowl teams don't lose 31-10 in December.
Right.
And so that's where I think they're a little misleading. I do think they feasted on the poor and weren't so good against the rich last year.
Jonte says, Chris, can you talk about CeeDee Lamb's value? Kind of weird that no one has come knocking for him or Dallas hasn't made an offer yet. Seems like the league isn't that high on him.
But I've been trying to say this on PFT. I know you've heard me say this, right? It's a really good observation by you at Jonte, right? I wouldn't want to pay CeeDee Lamb top-tier market money. He's really good, don't get me wrong, but would I want to pay him the top receiver in football, A.J. Brown type of money? I'm just going to say this right here. I would take Devontae Smith over CeeDee Lamb. I would. I have more faith that Devontae Smith outside one-on-one will run by people for a big play more than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb needs a little of the system to help him. He can't just line up and go, oh, I'm going to beat you all the game long, best corners in football. That's not what he is. He doesn't have enough pure speed and physical explosion that way, right? So, and to my point of that is I do think the league feels that way. I've had talks about this ever since the Combine, right? This was a thing going on where when you bring up Dallas, they go, I wouldn't want to have to pay CeeDee Lamb that, right? Right? And that's why I brought up a few weeks ago with Dallas, right? And it seems like he's probably waiting for big money. And because they've made him so the #1 target and they have nobody else really that they feature in the offense, his stats are out of this world good, right? There's all of that. So they backed themselves into a corner here a little. And that's going to be the interesting situation. But like I told you a few weeks ago, right, with the Brandon Ayuk thing we talked about on the podcast, like to me, if I was Dallas, I'd be like, go tell like AJ, like our AJ Brown conversation. AJ Brown got traded for the 17th pick and got a brand new contract. Give me a team that's going to do that for you. And then we'll talk about the number. If you show me the team that will do that for you, then we'll start talking about that same number for you from us, right? And it doesn't seem like Dallas is willing to have these hard conversations with their players at times. But, I mean, it might be too late now, but I would have already done that. And, to Jonte's point, I'm not as high on CeeDee Lamb as the rest of the world is, and I don't think the NFL is either.
Pete has backed up your claims on the Cowboys feasting on the week once again. They were 9-1 last year versus non-playoff teams. They were 3-4 versus playoff teams, and those 3 wins were the Eagles, who were
falling apart.
The Lions, when Dan Skipper reported eligible, and then he did not, but actually thought he did. Yeah. Rams, all at home. Too. So those are the 3 playoff teams they beat.
Yeah, and they beat the Rams. That was like early in the year, if I remember, right? I mean, the Rams were still figuring. It was week 8 as I pull up the schedule here. So the Rams weren't themselves either. If they caught the Rams at the end of the year, they're going to lose to the Rams.
Speaking of the end of the year, something Eagles fans want to forget is the burningest question. What happened? That's still the question for me. Like, how did that happen?
I'm with you there. I think there's going to be stuff that comes out eventually about locker room stuff and things there. I've been led to believe there's things there, and where there's smoke, there's fire, but I haven't heard a tangible, like, direct story yet. I kind of always get led to believe that, but nobody tells me a specific.
Yeah.
I get sometimes, hey, some of those things you've alluded to are right, but I don't get a specific. I don't know, but it is crazy. It is. It's insane. The best team, the most talented team in football, fell off planet Earth the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season.
And what really fell back, as we're looking at the ranks here overall, what really fell off the planet was their defense. I mean, it went from the second best defense in 2022 to the 26th best, or I guess worst, defense in 2023. 31st in passing. They just didn't get interceptions, did not get sacks. I mean, they made life so easy on opposing quarterbacks last year. It's ridiculous. And a lot of the attention goes to the offense, which wasn't as good either.
Right.
But I mean, I think the defensive fall off was
I think it
really
was more
destroying.
jarring. Yeah. I think you're right about that. I mean, everybody was moving the ball on them. I mean, no problem. I mean, it looked like they weren't coached well. They weren't playing with the same intensity we had seen, right? They obviously, I think part of it, and what we saw last year, we hit on it last year, and we just can't forget that the Jonathan Gannon leaving was a huge curveball. They didn't expect that. They had to hire somebody they did not want to hire as their defensive coordinator. That was an issue. And then I don't think they really realized how awesome Shane Steichen was until he left, and you got into the meat and potatoes of the season, and they were like, wait, we've run all our plays in our playbook, and it's week 6.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, people are starting to catch on to us here a little bit, and that's where Shane Steichen was awesome, his creativity and his ability to kind of be ahead of the curve all the time, right? So I would think that's part of it, let alone, just the pressure of Philadelphia and, hey, we're so great, and we got all these great players, and we were in the Super Bowl last year and probably should have won that game, and I think all that pressure kind of just built up to where they started to do things that they didn't want to do or, weren't like them in their DNA and how they played football.
Right. We got a question here from Dan Sulis. How will the Eagles' offense look this year with Kellen Moore? To stay on the coach's
burning question. Bam.
At the helm.
Bam. That would have been my burning question. That is the question. Because, first off, what are you going to talk about with the Eagles roster? Is their 7th backup on their D-line good enough to start for the Pro Bowl team this year? I mean, they're insane. It's an all-star team. It's crazy. No, but I think middle linebacker with Nakobe Dean and Devin White are the only 2 things on the roster that I think I can legitimately look at and go, all right, I don't know how that's going to work, right? I didn't love Nakobe Dean coming out in the draft, right? But I still – hey, they believe in him. He's there. Devin White, we know, has been all over the place, career arc. Rare in Tampa was the man for a little bit, then fell off earth, became the man again, and then fell off earth again. Nothing on offenses to worry about. It's phenomenal. The addition of the 2 guys in the secondary is phenomenal.
I mean, that's what you got to feel really good about. It's
right.
just like you're like the Lions, very similar there. You're just like, man, they saw an area of need and they addressed it with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean there.
Right.
And they also got C.J. Gardner-Johnson is back.
So they're sitting pretty, man. They really are. And now you got wait, does Bradbury start? No. Is Bradbury our 3rd corner now behind Quinyon Mitchell? I would guess so.
Yeah.
Right? Can they move him to the slot a little bit against bigger slot-type receivers? I would guess so too, right? So they're going to have a lot of versatility in their matchups. That's the other thing you look at. But I think middle linebacker, the only question on the roster, the biggest question to me, though, is the Kellen Moore thing. It is. Hey, this is one, I just feel like with Kellen Moore, is he going to run his offense, or is he going to run an offense that we've seen Philadelphia run the last few years, right? Where he's going to go, wait, this is kind of what they've done and what Shane Steichen did a few years ago, and, man, that's what Jalen Hurts is best in. Let me try to do that, or is he going to do more of what his stuff is, right, which I think is a little bit more traditional, and we're going to get underneath the center a little bit more, and – it's not going to be so, what am I saying, spread-oriented, I guess, is what I want to say, right? And that is, to me, the burning question is what that looks like, how Jalen Hurts takes to that coaching, and, how effective it can be there in Philadelphia.
I mean, you still have a super team on offense on paper, right? With A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both got paid. Paris Campbell, Devontae Parker there is backup guys.
Pretty damn
good. And then
good.
Saquon Barkley.
That's right.
Which takes us to
insane.
the Giants.
Yeah.
Which takes us to your Giants. Aru 811. What will happen with Daniel Jones? Can he survive with this offensive line? I know Neighbors will be awesome, but if you can't get the ball to him, it doesn't matter. Love you guys.
It's fun. I know. It's funny. I've seen this little meme on social media about, because people were getting on the Chargers, right? about not taking Neighbors and taking Joe Alt.
5 overall.
And there's this meme I've seen on Instagram of like, yeah, is the stick figures one, Pete? He'll find it, right. He's like, they give the scenario. We draft Neighbors at 5, and they have Herbert on the ground, like, getting sacked like in the outline, right? And then we draft Alt at 5. There's Herbert throwing to blah, 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 right? So it's like kind of giving the both scenarios.
So they did. I remember when I first saw that was with the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell.
Oh, they were doing the same thing.
I feel like it was the same thing. It is.
You're going to see it, and he's going to pull it up here because he'll find it. I know Pete will. But it's the same type of conversation. Now, I think they've done enough on their own line. It's just, can guys take the right steps here, right? Can they do that? I think they have enough bodies to play around with and do things there that, I just think it's going to be a little bit of like they addressed it and now they just got to figure it out and who fits where, right? They got some guys in like a Jermaine Elamanior where it protects them, where they go, wait, we know he can play right tackle. Yep. We don't need to worry about Evan Neal or no matter what. And now, hey, if Evan Neal, is awesome at right tackle in training camp, hey, Elamanior can play guard too, so we can move him in there, right? So they've given themselves, and then signing John Runyon, if it doesn't work out for Evan Neal and he is a backup, then you could go, wait, we got Runyon at guard and Elamanior can play tackle, right? So and so they got that. Let alone if they want to put Evan Neal at the other guard, they could do that. So I think there's flexibility there.
They've got options,
but I think that's still a legit question. Is like, what's it going to be? It's definitely one of my biggest questions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can they legitimately protect? I don't know, right? It's like one of those, you got to see it to believe it. Yeah, they haven't been good up there. And that's where, you worry about Daniel Jones, and that's where I have defended him in the past, is just that aspect. But, as a whole, new D coordinator, I'm not really worried about that. I'm a big fan of Shane Bowen coming over from the Tennessee Titans. I think that'll be good. Defensively, front 7, I got no questions there.
Oh, no, you're starting to feel playoff team. I mean, they got Brian Burns here. You got Sexy Dexy still.
Right.
Kayvon Thibodeau, I know you love him. But,
Jordan Phillips, I do love Jordan Phillips in the middle to add to it. Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden were damn good last year, right? Maybe if you wanted to get into this a little, all right, we hit on O-line, and then I'm going to say I still question the other corner, right? I know that my man Deonte Banks is good. I got that. But, like, what did I see? Let me see if I could find this. They had, last I saw, weren't people penciling in Drew Phillips, the Kentucky kid out of
Kentucky? Yeah, Drew Phillips is a penciled-in rookie starter.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Tyler Nubin is a penciled-in rookie starter at strong safety.
So that to me would be part of the burning question here, is that right there. Drew Phillips, I liked him, but I did not think he could run straight enough, or straight speed, explosion, acceleration, all of that, to a level to where you could say, oh, I could trust him on the outside, right? I almost thought he had more of a nickelback type of skill set rather than
4.48, 40. So 10-yard split was 1.51.
Right. So that's 4.48's getting up there to the speed where I start to go, I don't know if you can cover, the Malik Neighbors of the world, right? Yep. Right. What were the rest of his numbers?
Thank God he won't have to.
Right.
Except in practice.
Right. What were the rest of do you have any other numbers there?
So his vertical and broad jump were 97th percentile. Right. So pretty good. But he's, below average in height, weight, wingspan.
Did he do 3-cone or any of that?
He did not do 3-cone.
No 3-cone?
He refused to do it.
Okay.
Red flag.
Yeah.
All right. So that, I mean, you got 2 rookie starters there in the secondary. So that's got to be a question.
I think that's valid to question that right there and what they do. And, Bowen's a guy that does play a little bit man-to-man. And, when I do look at their roster right now, I think that would probably be the thing I look at and go, I don't know if we can do that to the level they might want to call those defenses this year. And do I trust those guys totally on Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Devontae Parker. I trust Deonte Banks, but I don't know about the rest of the crew. I think that would be my biggest questions there for sure.
This is O. Murray 271.
Yeah.
What should the proper expectation be for the Giants? If the team doesn't meet those expectations, are there any changes on the horizon for the front office or the head coach or both?
Well, I think a realistic expectation, like we said last year, right before the year, I was trying to tell the Giant fan, like, we're not going to the playoffs. Like, the year before that when we beat Minnesota, the year fell perfectly. The schedule, everything. It was all just the right way. New coach, division getting used to that new coach.
Won a bunch of games ugly.
Right. Just like, the defense made some plays. Wink Martindale and his craziness, right? Made Lamar fumble late in the game. Right? They did this. It was like one of those years, right? I think realistically, my expectations are like, I hope we're in the wild card conversation in December. And I think that's where it should be. I mean, again, I don't know how you could look at it and go, well, we should win the division. No. I just hope we're competitive in the division and a pain in the ass for Philadelphia as we go through here. But that to me is really what I expect right around there, right? I hope we can get to December and go, hey, we're in it. And we got a chance to, maybe be the 7th seed or the 6th seed if things fall right, and we can go on a run here. That's kind of where I see it. You got a different feel for that?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could look at it and think they're going to be dominant. Now, and this is where I love the Malik Neighbors thing. I think he's only going to make Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt more dangerous.
I'm curious to see those wide receivers. They could be exciting.
It could be.
Offensively, which they haven't been for a while now.
Exactly. That's what we're excited about. And Darius Slayton, let's not forget about him. He's damn awesome, too. You put Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors, and Jalen Hyatt on there, I would go that 3 in a race. 3. I'm just drinking off the top of my head here. I think it's up there with anybody in football. It's pure speed. Those 3. Yeah. I mean, that can fly. Those 3 right there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So Gabby and Morgan and Wyatt, Mackenzie and Kristen and Pete have pulled together the meme. So you can see the meme. This is what it was. This was the Burrow and So this is Burrow to anybody, and you're able to make the pass with Sewell there protecting. And then if you have no one protecting, then it doesn't matter if you have the fastest guy ever.
So
and he loses his head.
Damn,
too.
You don't want to lose your head.
You lose your head on that one.
You won't get a $55 million contract if you lose your head. But no, it's the same thing with Herbert. There's the same exact thing. So good job by you guys out there. And what I would say to that is maybe they need to put an option C. Because Burrow's option would be like he completes to Chase while also getting his head knocked off. It's like it both kind of happened with Joe Burrow. He kind of made it happen either way.
We're good either way, and we're screwed either way. Too.
Right.
One more team to talk about. They were screwed last year. The Commanders. They got a new quarterback. They got a new running back. They got another wide receiver. They got new guys on the offensive line. So here is the burning question from I Won the Mums. The Commanders had a porous offensive line last season and weren't able to get a starting tackle in free agency or the draft. Can Kingsbury keep Jayden Daniels safe in his rookie season? So a lot of the burning questions are revolving around Jayden Daniels. Same kind of idea. We could bring the meme back here. What he will look like, and do they have enough of a support around their new franchise quarterback?
Yeah, no, I do think they do. The O linemen are not. It's not eye popping.
No,
right?
They brought in Nick Allegretti.
Right,
was a backup in Kansas City last year.
Yeah,
they got Tyler Biadasz.
Biadasz, right? Good
starter
job
from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, right. So that's an improvement there
at center.
And Allegretti he's a starter. I mean, he's a starter. He just was down in Kansas City where. He was the backup. They were pretty good on the O-line, but he could do guard or tackle, and good for him for going, right? The left tackle position is the position you worry about, but obviously it didn't work out. They didn't get the guy they wanted there, but I also think they look at it and go, wait, we got some other guys that have kind of, hey, Trenton Scott, he's played tackle before. Maybe he can be the guy as we go forward. Maybe there's somebody else there that they feel like can develop and become something there for them. But I also look at it and go, I don't think they're going to be necessarily an offense that's going to be all about like, we got to run the ball and do all that. Again, it's going to be spread. The ball's going to be out of his hands quickly a lot. They're going to move Jayden Daniels to make sure he doesn't get crushed in the pocket, too much or anything like that. I think that'll be the big thing. But yeah, they're not overly impressive on the offensive line, right? Defensively, a lot of bodies brought in on that side of the ball, right? Fresh bodies, guys that make sense for their scheme. They definitely improved the middle linebacker position with Frankie Louvu. I love that. And Bobby Wagner, right? I was never a fan of Yamin Davis coming out of Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was all just a runaround guy and not made to play middle linebacker in the NFL.
I think it's Jamin.
Jamin
Davis?
It is Jamin. It is Jamin. What did I say, Yamin?
You give it more of a Spanish twist to it.
I don't know why I did that. I am an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. So the bodies they brought in on defense, Louvu, Wagner. You got. You still have Deron Payne there. You got Jonathan Allen. You got Dorrance Armstrong there now. 3-year, $45 million deal. So there are some names that have done it in the past.
They did it with a lot of. They got Dante Fowler Jr. there. They still got damn good tackles. Clelin Ferrell coming over from San Francisco. That's it. They're all good, right? I think. If I had to question my burning question, because I think the O-line was part of that, but it's again, it could be better, but I don't know if I'm going to sit there totally look at it and go, it's as bad as everybody thinks. And I think Sam Howell with his holding the ball and doing some of that made it look worse than it was last year, right?
Yeah.
So I think that has to be taken into account with the big picture context, right?
For sure.
But I just joked about Dallas, right? And Dan Quinn. And playing man-to-man, and that would be the thing I'd worry about. Their corners. That would be.
That's been a big burning question throughout the NFC here, is the secondary play.
I think it's valid here. I think when you look at that right there and go, wait, Michael Davis, right, coming from the Chargers, it hasn't blown me away the last few years there, right? Benjamin St-Juste, right? There's been moments of going, oh, wait, this guy can be something, but it's never been consistent and good enough that way. Then we know we got their man Sainer still at nickel, which I think that's really good. But again, this is a defense, and in its past here with Quinn, he wants to man you up. And I don't know if I would trust any of those guys going against at least the first two guys I mentioned against any of the receivers we talked about with the Giants, and certainly not the Eagles, right? Yeah. So I would worry about that. That, to me, I think is the burning question. That defensive scheme, who they are, right? Their pass rush better be good. Because I don't know if I trust those corners in the back end. And, by all due accounts, again, let me make sure I pull this up. The Emmanuel Forbes is going to start on the bench, right? From what you see, right? So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't look good on them that a first-round pick is not playing.
Who knows? Maybe if the offense gets better and some of these defensive guys steps up, maybe they can win the division. And don't laugh at that, because in 19 of the past 21 seasons, a team has won their division the year after finishing last. The Texans did it last year, and so Pete has accumulated all the odds of the teams that finished last and who is most likely to be that team that wins the division. I love this board. Keep this board that we can refer to, because I really do like this. Look at that. The Commanders actually mid-pack. Plus 750 of all the teams that finished last year have a better than not chance than the rest of the teams to win the division. You got the Bengals with the best chance. You got the Bears with the second best chance. Don't know how that's even possible. And then Chargers right after that.
You're funny.
That's interesting. What do you think of these?
Well, first off, with the NFC East, right? How many years in a row are we with the repeat division winners? I mean, it's seriously, it's like plus 20, I think. It's something like that. It's crazy. Out of these teams here, I don't think there's any chance the Patriots or the Panthers are in that conversation.
I mean, I don't know. The Panthers, the NFC South is so.
I know. I still don't think there's enough there.
Okay,
I don't think so.
I get it, but
I don't think the Chargers are ready for that type of move yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I'm
with that.
not ready.
I'm surprised they're up there so high.
If the Bears weren't in a division with a really good top tier team like yourselves, I would go that makes a lot of sense. And let me just obviously the Bengals are the obvious pick. We know that. I mean, the Bengals are good. They looked like they might have been on their way to going to the Super Bowl the way things were rounding into form as Joe Burrow got hurt last year on that Thursday night football game. But the value signings for me in this one. The Titans and the Cardinals. Now, I'm not saying I'm putting a ton of stock in that, but if you were like, hey, I got some extra change and I'm looking for a bet to hit here or do something like that, The Bears are a team that I would still throw in that conversation, but we're talking about a little farther down the list. Hey, the AFC South, I think the Titans are a little better than people realize, and hey, maybe Houston, like we talked about on Monday, slips up with the expectations, and we're young, and the schedule's different this year, and we're going to be on prime time. So that's why I throw that out there. And then, the Cardinals, again, of course I'm going to pick the Rams and the Niners to be the leaders in that division.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But the way we saw the Cardinals play, some of the things they've made, the moves they've made into the roster, and then, of course, the coaching that we alluded to earlier, I don't know. Those are two that at least down the list teams that jump out to me.
The NFC East has not had a repeat champion since the 2001-2004 Eagles won 4 straight titles. So we're going on 2 decades here.
Damn, that's amazing.
DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And during the playoffs, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly.
You can download the app, use the promo code Unbuttoned when you sign up.
DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
And
is that your most exciting part of the podcast?
I get into it. I was like, I know this.
You do.
I got
Every
this.
time we get to that point, he sits up and he gives me hand gestures, and he is ready for that right there.
Yeah. I don't often think of this as like a video podcast, so maybe sometimes I should give more hand gestures, but people are watching, I guess, out there for some crazy reason.
They want to see if your pits are sweating through.
We got one more thing here.
All right.
Brought to you by Columbo. I haven't even seen this yet. This is from Adam Blackall. So this is from the Urban Dictionary. He goes, maybe it's not a saying in America, but hearing Ahmed talk so much about necking off with all the other quarterbacks was a true highlight for me. So I don't know exactly what
necking
that
is like kissing a girl's neck, right? Yeah. All right. So
isn't that just like leaving? You want to neck off, darling? Is that leaving, or do
no.
we have to now censor this?
I think it's making up. My mom said this to me once with my first girlfriend I ever had.
Okay.
8th grade. She drops me off at the Indian Trail Club. And I had a girlfriend at the time named Paige Claire, and she was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Go necking over by the boats over there?" And I was like, "Huh? Necking?
Yeah.
What is that, Mom?"
Yeah.
And she explained that to me, right?
Oh, so some people were interpreting when I said the quarterback neck off is that the quarterbacks
were going to kiss each other's necks? I don't know. they went to a weird spot there. We were just talking about muscles in the neck.
We go to weird spots. We don't go to that weird spots.
We don't go to that weird spots.
Yeah. Who knows? Our 20-something PA, Pete says in the back there, is saying it does mean something more risque even than that.
Oh, is that right?
So we're really venturing on very dangerous territory here, apparently.
That sounds like we're getting into porn territory is what they're. Now I'm really interested. Give me that meaning on the screen, please, Pete. I'd like to know that meaning.
Yeah. So I will not swear on the podcast, but I'll just say all this stuff. Apparently,
this was a great end of the pod. I had a lot of fun with that at the ending here. That was great.
Yeah, I will never swear on the pod, but I will just make a bunch of innuendo references.
How would that do on social media, right? If you were like, well, we're down to Trevor Lawrence and Patrick Mahomes, they're necking, and we put them on social media, like, kissing each other's necks. I don't know. You get a crazy reaction there.
Get attention, yeah.
Might get lots of likes and followers. I don't know.
We might get new listeners that would have the wrong idea, but maybe it's the right idea. I don't know what we're doing anymore.
I don't know. Hey, there's no boundaries here at Chris Simms Unbuttoned. We talk football. We hit all angles of football. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know what's coming on Monday. Dun, dun, dun. Top 40 quarterback countdown.
Ranking some dudes.
Ranking some dudes. That's what I do best. All right. Subscribe, rate, review. You know where to find us. Have a great weekend, everybody out there. Be safe. Be smart. We'll see you Monday for the quarterback countdown. Ahmed, thanks for driving the ship as always. Yep. You the man. Peace out, homies. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for watching, homies. You know it's the off-season, but there's no off-season with Chris Simms Unbuttoned. It's the NFL. It goes all year around, all right? So hit subscribe, please, to hear my thoughts on your favorite team, your favorite quarterback, and, hey, how this season might unfold as we get ready for the 2024 season. We got a better picture, clearer look now that the draft is over, free agency. We know who's playing quarterback for certain teams. So, again, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. Check you out soon.